Just before I get started, who here is a game developer or knows much about games? Come on, put them hands higher. If you go like this, I can't really see. All right, okay. Just so I know who I'm talking to before I start. This is my presentation, Life After Release, Launch, Burnout, and the Future. And I absolutely love this GIF. I don't know if you feel the same, but I feel very strongly about this GIF and I love it. So who am I? I'm Jordan, the creator of Haiku the Robot, which recently launched on the Nintendo Switch and Steam. Before making games, I worked in marketing, so I like to think that that's sort of my bread and butter. But it's kind of transitioning into making games now. But that's my game. It's a 2D action adventure. It's a 2D action adventure platformer focused on exploring a large interconnected world. And if any of you are like old-time gamers, then it's basically Super Metroid. So Metroidvania formula, very much you just explore, gain new abilities that allow you to explore more areas, where you can find new abilities, which allow you to explore more areas, and so on and so on. So what I would just be covering quickly is what I did to prepare for launch, so aka the go-to-market plan, the first week of launch, how the Switch port went, and then all the future plans and stuff like this. I was hoping to include Metroidvania world design for Alexei, but I just didn't have time. So next time, another day. Okay, Alexei? So, preparing for launch. This is basically like a too long didn't read version of the talk I gave in the summer. So just to give you some context. So for me, this sentence stuck with me from the minute I heard it, and it kind of summarizes why marketing is so important. And this essentially applies to any product, not just video games. So in my case, it's a game. So you could have the best game in the world, but if nobody knows about it, nobody will play it. And the same for a product. You could have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, nobody's going to use it. So I think this is very important, and you should have this mindset at the very beginning to think of marketing when you're developing the game, even though it's not ready, released, or playable at that point. So my two main marketing focuses during development. So this, like I said, you want to try and start marketing as soon as you have something visual that you can put in front of people, even if it's not working. Just like, hey, this is an idea, almost like a concept. What do you think of it? And you start generating interest and gauging that interest, etc., etc. So my two main focuses were building a community and building wish lists. Does anybody know what wish lists are? Yeah, I'll just explain very briefly, just in case you didn't know, and you're too shy to say, no, I don't know what that is. So wish lists are basically like you have Amazon wish lists, you have like all different sorts of wish lists where customers will put products. In our case for games, Steam is one of the biggest distribution platforms. I'm pretty sure if anybody's played a video game on PC, they know what Steam is. So as a developer, your goal is to try and get on as many people's wish lists as possible. And why do you want to get on people's wish lists? Is because when you release your game, they will get an email saying that you just released your game. So it's basically like a massive email marketing tool almost. So it's very important to build as many wish lists as possible because you want as many sales on your launch day as possible, because then that will snowball and Steam will put your game in a more prominent position, which hopefully will generate more sales and so on and so forth. So why is building a community important? Not only for just feedback and general stuff like this and play testing and beta testing, alpha testing, all these things, but it's extremely important because when you release your game, you want to try and get as many reviews as possible, because if Steam, it's basically just how the algorithm works. So like if Steam sees that your game has sold well and people are leaving reviews, it can be positive or negative, ideally positive, because that will push it up even more, then they'll promote it more. They'll just give you a better spot. And the end goal is to reach on this section, which is on the front page. They have a tab which says new and trending, and the goal is to try and reach there Luckily, Haiku Robot did, and it was there for about a week, which is quite impressive. But I'll show you why after I planned it that way, so I could try and get the maximum traction out of the sort of tools that Steam offer anyway. So building wish lists is obviously important because the more wish lists you have, the more people get sent that email, the more people potentially will buy it. And all of this matters because at the end of the day, these distribution platforms, they only care about revenue. So how much dollars have you sold? So this is basically my graph, and I'm just going to quickly go over like the big spikes and how I achieved those big spikes, because just from building a community, you can kind of just hover around these low numbers, which, as you can see, is probably somewhere between 1 to like 50. Which, I mean, 1 to 50 a day is good, because over a period of like 2 years, that adds up to a lot. But I just want to go over like the big spikes as well, because they're very important to how I prepared my launch. So the first one is Tiny Teams event, and these are special events that Steam puts onto their platform, and they look a little bit like this. So it's like a massive, almost takeover of their platform and their front page, and they basically are like curated lists of games. So this is almost just being on the front page, and all you have to do is just apply for an event. A lot of these events are free. They're free to apply. Some have a small fee, which are like $50, and that's completely worth it in terms of the visibility that you get in return. The next one is a teaser trailer. So I had a really old trailer that looked really amateur and terrible. If you're really interested in seeing it, you can try and look it up on YouTube. So I made a new trailer to make it like just to show the kind of improvements that have been made. It was much more polished at this stage, and I posted it onto Reddit and 9gag. So they did big numbers on both Reddit, 9gag, Twitter, Instagram, and all these social media platforms, and that resulted in like a big spike. So basically, what I learned from that is that Steam events are really good because they're very cheap and you get so much in return, especially if they're like free, completely free to apply. It's like infinite gains at that point. And the other thing I learned is that having a good trailer is critical for a game. Here you can see just more events, and this release day reveal trailer did just as good as the teaser trailer, like almost, I don't know, 6 months ago. So that kind of just solidified that these things work, right? Like events work and a good trailer works. So, yep, that was my launch day strategy. Basically, just have a good trailer and try to plan my launch day around a Steam event. So luckily for me, wait, let's go back. Luckily for me, they had oh wait, did I not include that slide? Oh no, I did, okay. So luckily for me, they had an event which was perfect for my type of game. So they had a Steam event which was targeted towards roguelikes and Metroidvanias. So my game was a Metroidvania, and that slots perfectly into that category. So imagine like a whole event which is literally targeted to the genre that you're making. I was like, I have to capitalize on this, and I have to try and launch my game around that time. So the first spike that you see is the launch day, and naturally launch day does well because if you've been building wish lists for the last 2 years, then you're going to have a big influx of people buying the game, etc. And then on Monday, which is the second spike, is when this event started. Like I said before as well, the goal is to try and get on that new and trending page, because then you're just on the front page of Steam. And I was on it on launch day. So Thursday I was on there, Friday I was on there, and then on the weekend, basically no games are released. So I could manage to keep my spot for the weekend until Monday came around again. And then because of the event and because the game was so new, it had a prominent position on the page as well. And again, it just shot up. So it extended the time that the game was on new and trending for like a week. So I launched on Thursday, which is a good day in my opinion to launch because Friday you get to fix a lot of bugs. And I found out now that most people actually buy a lot of games during the week and then they don't buy many games at the weekend at all. And my theory is that people actually play games on the weekend versus buy the games on the weekend. So I could imagine somebody stuck in an office. I'm sure we've all been there. Don't know what you're like, kind of tired of your day already, browsing through Steams. What games could I play this weekend? You find something you like, buy it, and then at the weekend you think, Saturday I'm gonna absolutely demolish this game. So on Friday that gave me time to fix bugs, especially like the most urgent ones, and I was fixing bugs all the way for the weekend as well. So in my first week I sold about 10,000 units, which is great. I cannot complain. And yeah. After the whole first week was over, I still continued to apply to these Steam events just because they give you so much visibility and it's a really good return of investment. Oh, yeah, so for those interested, the Steam event was called Going Rogue. So I fixed bugs for about for 3 or 4 days, and then I just collapsed. I don't know what came over me. I literally went to Vapiano, and that was it. And then I got home and I was dead. So I was like, is it Vapiano or is it COVID or is it burnout or is it just the stress? Like suddenly this weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I really, really can't tell. I did like these home tests, these COVID tests, but it said negative. So I don't know. But this is a pretty accurate depiction of what I looked like in that week. And after that week, I just couldn't bring myself to work on the game. It was really, really, really hard. So I think it was a mixture of just everything in the end of the day. Yeah. So what did I do? I was fortunate enough that I could take a break, and I was almost forced to take a break because I got married, and then we went on a honeymoon. So I had pretty much a 2-month break just from that. Like family visiting for a month, and then I was going away on a honeymoon and stuff like that. So I could get like a clean break and just sort of detach myself for a bit, which helped immensely. But during that break, I was actually still fixing a few bugs, but I felt like that was easy. It was like almost being a developer and you get a Jira task in, and it's like, okay, very easy. I know exactly what I have to do, fix, done. And you know, it wasn't very hard. I didn't have to use any creative brain or anything like that. So finally, I could muster the courage to kind of work on the Switch port. And to be honest, I was working a little bit on the Switch port during the honeymoon, but just don't tell my wife that. So I'll just quickly go over like what went smoothly, what was like painful, and all this sort of stuff. So applying for the Switch license, the developer license, was actually really smooth. They just have a portal, and you can basically just go there, sign up for a developer license. They give you that pretty easy, and then you have to fill out like an additional form for the Switch license. Once you get that, you can order like all sorts of dev kits. You get access to all the like forums and documentation on Nintendo side and all this sort of stuff. I used Unity Engine to make my game, and one of the reasons why I picked it was because it has good porting capabilities and also good documentation, and I can now testify that it has good porting capabilities. Literally, almost with a click of a button, you can just port the game. And all I had to do was just look through, well, basically just play the game through and find where any optimizations were needed. And there's a thing called lock check, which I have no idea if that's an NDA term, but now you know. It doesn't really say much though, does it, itself? Which is basically just their approval system of getting builds approved for the platform, and that's it. And surprisingly, that was really easy. Nintendo is quite good at communication. They're very open and communicative, which is welcoming. And every single time there was an issue with the build, they gave very clear feedback and instructions on what to do and how to fix it, which I appreciate. So what was not so difficult? So what was difficult, adapting the save system to the Nintendo Switch software/hardware. That's how I felt. Basically, it was painful. I didn't understand a thing what was going on. And I think it literally took me about 2 whole weeks just to figure out what the hell was going on with the save system, because it's very different. And yeah, if you ever have to go through it, you'll see. Then I had to optimize a few things in the game. So the map system, I had to refactor completely. A Metroidvania, by the way, is very reliant on your map, because the whole goal of the game is to explore, and it is to like look at the map, see where you haven't explored, go try that new route and stuff like this. And surprisingly, some rope physics, which I just copied a YouTube tutorial, then the Switch was just screaming when I ported it. And getting store pages approved was more difficult than getting the actual build approved, which is ridiculous. So the map system, this is like a screenshot of the in-game map. And the way I had built it originally was more or less you put like these boxes over each. So you have the map and then you put the boxes on top that kind of obscure it. And then once you walk into that room, I just remove the box and you can see what's underneath. So originally I used mask objects. This is the noob me coming out, and that was terrible for performance. As soon as I loaded it onto the Switch, it went about 10 FPS. So it was horrible. But I also had reports from PC players that it was also slow on their computers. So if I was optimizing it for the Switch, at least I knew I was kind of optimizing it for lower end PCs as well. So I had to redo all the tiles, basically all these boxes. There was about 400 of them, and I just swapped them out for simple game objects, which runs perfectly now. Rope physics. So I had all these like juicy rope physics going on, which looked pretty cool, and I just could not optimize it to save my life. I've spoken to some other game developers now, and they could probably do it in like 5 seconds, but I'm pretty noob at all this sort of stuff still, so I just opted for the simple solution, which was delete them and make them static. So it kind of gives the same vibe, but unfortunately that's like the only visual change on the Nintendo Switch that's different to the PC version. Lastly was getting the store pages approved. So each single region has their own requirements, so you have to get approved, like all screenshots, videos, all sorts of stuff, and each of them requests different assets as well, which is annoying. You have to get it approved for America, you have to get it approved for Nintendo, and you have to get it approved for Japan as well. One example is the videos in America require that you have an ESRB rating. So at the beginning it says like this game is for everyone, or like mature rating, yada yada. And the other odd thing is that you have to have French translations if you want your game to appear in the Canadian eShop. And this is a requirement. So my game isn't even translated in French. And yeah, like Canada's a big market, so it's just ridiculous. So yeah, stuff like that. And that applies for like each region. I remember I applied all the stuff for Japan, and they just basically wrote back and it was just like, yo, none of it's in Japanese. Can you do all the screenshots in Japanese, please? And the video. And I was like, yeah, sure, when I get back from my honeymoon. So how did it go? So I've talked about like how the process went, but how did the launch go? Then due to the lack of wish lists and the amount of time it took to get everything approved, I think I started about 2 or 3 months before the deadline, before the date, like the release date I had set. And it took about 2 months to get everything approved. So that first sort of initial approval takes a long time. So I didn't have a Steam page up, well, sorry, not a Steam page, but a store page on the Nintendo Switch up to gather wish list. They now have a wish list feature, which is very cool. But I didn't have it up long enough to gather a significant amount of wish lists. So I focused on just traditional press, so reaching out to like PC Gamer and Nintendo Life and all these sort of websites. Unfortunately, as soon as I announced my release date, Splatoon 3 released their go live date as well. and it was the same day. So everybody basically from Nintendo Life and all these big Nintendo websites wrote back to me and just said, look, unfortunately, we have to write all the content for Splatoon 3, guides, all sorts of stuff like that. So we just don't have time to cover your game, which is a shame. But sales performed about 4 times worse than Steam, so it's about a quarter of what Steam did. But the benefit at the end of the day is that it's still a good return of investment because I only spent roughly about a month optimizing 2 things in the game, transferring the save system over, and that's it. So I only lost like a month of my time, and then I still get like decent chunk of revenue from it. So it's cheap to port, and in my opinion, it still has a good return of investment. So future plans. I said I was burnt out and stuff, but now I'm back. So now I'm back and I'm going to do content updates. And the whole idea of a content update is to try and please Steam. Because Steam was essentially like the big moneymaker for me, then the idea is that you reach out to Steam and you ask for a promotional slot because they have all sorts of promotional slots on their front page. This is the first fold of the front page. And like, if you can get a promotional slot here, which is a daily deal, the guys from Placeholder who, are they here? They're not here today, right?
They're in South Korea.
Oh, wow, okay.
Not all of them, some of them are in Sweden.
All right, but they've done this in the past as well, and they see like a huge revenue jump from just having this prime spot on the front page. So the idea is to try and reach out and secure one of them spots. So making a content update just kind of helps you like even more because you can reach out to Steam. You can say, hey, look, I have this planned. You know my game's already sold well, but I have this planned additionally. Is there possibility that we could get like a promotional spot? And 9 times out of 10 they say yes. So the new game mode that I'm planning to add is a corrupt mode, which basically is a super simple way for us developers to just add you only have 1 HP mode. That's what we have to change. And then apart from that, I'm also doing physical copies for Switch, which is fantastic. So when I started this like 3 years ago, I never ever would have thought I'd see my game printed on a physical Nintendo Switch cartridge. So that's super cool. And that's it. So this is the Metroidvania world design that Alexei requested, but another day. Another day.